Shockwaves moved through global financial markets and military command centers almost simultaneously after reports emerged that Iran had launched a missile strike targeting an area near a major United States military installation in the Middle East. Early reports suggested that several projectiles had been fired toward a strategic zone hosting American military assets, immediately raising alarms among defense officials and international observers. Within minutes, news of the strike began spreading across major global media networks, triggering urgent questions not only about the military implications of the event, but also about the economic shockwaves such an escalation could send through global markets. Iranian officials quickly framed the operation as a calculated response within the broader tensions currently shaping the region. According to statements carried by Iranian state media, the strike was designed to send a clear strategic message about Iran's military reach and its ability to challenge American infrastructure across the Gulf region. Military commentators inside Iran described the action as proof that key American positions in the Middle East remain within range of Iranian missile forces. But the story unfolding behind this sudden strike may be even larger than the immediate military confrontation. Because beyond the missiles, the bases, and the political messaging, events like this have historically triggered powerful reactions inside global financial markets, reactions that legendary investor Warren Buffett has spent decades studying. Before we break down exactly how this strike reportedly unfolded, how Washington is responding, and why analysts believe moments like this can move billions of dollars across global markets in a matter of hours, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you never miss the most important geopolitical developments shaping the world economy. According to early reports circulating among regional security analysts, the strike appears to have been part of a broader pattern of escalating signals between Iran and the United States. Iranian officials stated that the operation targeted a zone connected to American military logistics in the Gulf region. While details remain limited, Iranian sources described the missiles as precision weapons designed to demonstrate reach rather than initiate a full-scale confrontation. American defense officials, meanwhile, acknowledged that defensive systems in the region had been activated following the detection of incoming projectiles. Initial statements suggested that interception systems may have prevented major damage, though the situation remains under assessment as military analysts continue reviewing radar data and satellite imagery. Moments like this, when uncertainty spreads faster than confirmed information, often create the most powerful reactions inside global markets. Oil traders, defense analysts, and geopolitical strategists immediately began watching the situation closely. The Gulf region sits at the heart of the world's energy infrastructure. Even the perception that tensions might escalate near major shipping lanes or production facilities can send energy prices sharply higher within hours. This is precisely the type of geopolitical uncertainty that investors like Warren Buffett has spent decades navigating. Throughout his long career leading Berkshire Hathaway, Buffett has repeatedly warned that geopolitical shocks can ripple through markets in ways that many investors underestimate. While short-term reactions often appear chaotic, they frequently reveal deeper patterns about how global economies respond to sudden instability. And that brings us to the strategic importance of the region where this strike reportedly occurred. The Gulf region is home to some of the most important military and energy infrastructure on the planet. Several major American bases operate across allied nations in the area, serving as command centers for operations spanning multiple countries. These installations support surveillance aircraft, fighter squadrons, intelligence units, and logistics networks that allow the United States to maintain a powerful military presence throughout the Middle East. One of the most significant among them is Al Udeid Air Base, a massive installation that functions as a central hub for American air operations across the region. The base hosts thousands of personnel and supports missions ranging from intelligence gathering to strategic air operations. Because of this strategic role, facilities like Al Udeid have long been viewed as potential targets during moments of escalating tension. Iranian military planners have repeatedly stated in past years that American bases throughout the Gulf region fall within the operational range of Iranian missile systems. That reality has forced the United States and its allies to invest heavily in layered missile defense systems designed to detect, track, and intercept incoming threats. But even when those systems work as designed, the psychological and economic impact of a missile launch can be enormous.
Financial markets operate on expectations. When uncertainty rises, investors often react immediately. Energy traders began monitoring the situation within minutes of the first reports. Any disruption to stability in the Gulf can influence global oil supply expectations, and even small shifts in perceived risk can trigger sharp price movements. For decades, Warren Buffett has argued that moments of uncertainty reveal how interconnected the global economy truly is. A missile strike near a military installation thousands of miles away from Wall Street can still move markets in New York, London, Tokyo, and Shanghai within hours. Energy prices influence transportation costs. Transportation costs influence manufacturing. Manufacturing affects corporate profits, and corporate profits ultimately shape the direction of stock markets. But the situation surrounding this latest strike quickly became more complicated as competing narratives began to emerge. Iranian officials continued describing the operation as a strategic success, suggesting that their missiles demonstrated the ability to reach key American military infrastructure. Iranian commentators framed the strike as a calculated show of strength designed to reinforce deterrence. American officials, however, presented a sharply different version of events. According to preliminary assessments from U.S. defense sources, interception systems may have neutralized most incoming projectiles before they could reach critical facilities. While investigations remain ongoing, initial statements suggested that operational infrastructure remained intact and that military activities continued without significant disruption. This stark difference between the two narratives is not unusual during moments of geopolitical confrontation. Both sides often attempt to shape the public perception of events for strategic reasons. Demonstrating strength and deterrence is a key element of military messaging, while maintaining confidence among allies and financial markets is equally important for governments responding to potential attacks. But even when the physical damage is limited, the strategic consequences can still be profound. And this is exactly where analysts believe the next phase of the story begins. Because what happens next, whether tensions escalate further, stabilize through diplomacy, or trigger new economic reactions, could determine how markets around the world respond in the coming days. But to understand why the next phase matters so much, analysts first look at how situations like this have unfolded in the past. Geopolitical events rarely move markets because of the immediate physical damage alone. Instead, markets react to the possibility of what could come next. When missiles are launched near strategic military installations in one of the most energy-sensitive regions in the world, investors begin calculating potential escalation scenarios almost instantly. Could there be retaliation? Could shipping routes be disrupted? Could regional allies become involved? These are the kinds of questions that begin circulating inside trading floors and government situation rooms within minutes of such developments. The Persian Gulf sits at the center of a massive network of global energy transportation routes. Tankers carrying millions of barrels of oil move through narrow maritime corridors every day, supplying economies across Europe, Asia, and North America. If tensions in this region rise even slightly, energy markets often react with dramatic speed. Oil prices can surge not necessarily because production has stopped, but because traders begin pricing in the risk that supply could be interrupted. And that single shift in expectation can ripple through the global economy. Higher oil prices can influence airline costs, shipping expenses, manufacturing budgets, and consumer fuel prices. When energy becomes more expensive, the cost of producing and transporting goods rises as well. That process eventually reaches everyday consumers through higher prices on everything from groceries to electronics. It is precisely this chain reaction that long-term investors have studied for decades. During periods of geopolitical uncertainty, the global economy can experience sudden bursts of volatility that move trillions of dollars across financial markets. This is why analysts often look to the broader economic perspective associated with investors like Warren Buffett when trying to understand how such events may unfold. Buffett has frequently emphasized that markets tend to overreact to dramatic headlines in the short term, while gradually stabilizing as more information becomes available. However, he has also warned that geopolitical shocks connected to critical infrastructure, particularly energy infrastructure, deserve serious attention, because the consequences can extend far beyond a single military exchange. As the news of the strike continued spreading across international networks, government officials across multiple countries reportedly began consulting with defense and intelligence agencies. Allies hosting American military assets in the region were placed on heightened alert, while diplomatic channels quietly began working to assess whether the situation might escalate further. Regional governments understand the risks involved in such moments. If tensions spiral into broader confrontation, the entire geopolitical balance of the Middle East could shift rapidly, and that would carry enormous consequences not only for regional security but also for global economic stability. Defense analysts are now examining several critical questions. How many missiles were actually launched? Which systems were used?
And perhaps most importantly, what was the strategic objective behind the strike? Some experts believe the operation may have been intended primarily as a signal rather than the opening move of a larger military campaign. Demonstrating missile capability can serve as a powerful form of deterrence messaging. By showing that strategic targets remain within reach, a country can attempt to strengthen its negotiating position without necessarily seeking full-scale confrontation. However, this type of signaling can be extremely dangerous, because the receiving side may interpret the message differently. If military commanders view the strike as an unacceptable escalation, pressure may grow for some form of response. And once retaliation cycles begin, controlling the pace of escalation becomes far more difficult. This is one of the central concerns now being discussed among security analysts. The Middle East has experienced periods of heightened tension before, but each new incident introduces its own unique risks. Military technology has evolved rapidly in recent years. Precision missiles, drones, and advanced surveillance systems have dramatically expanded the capabilities available to regional actors. As a result, even limited confrontations can unfold with unprecedented speed. Financial markets are particularly sensitive to this kind of uncertainty. When investors cannot clearly predict the direction of events, volatility often increases. Currencies fluctuate, energy prices move sharply, and stock markets can swing in response to every new headline. Traders often refer to these moments as information storms. A constant flow of partial updates, conflicting reports, and breaking news creates an environment where perception can move markets almost as powerfully as confirmed facts. And that is exactly what appears to be happening now. Energy analysts across Europe and Asia have already begun modeling potential price movements depending on how the situation evolves. If tensions stabilize quickly, markets may calm within days. But if additional strikes, retaliation, or new military deployments occur, the reaction could become far more dramatic. The possibility of disruption near key shipping routes is particularly concerning. A significant portion of the world's oil supply travels through narrow waterways connecting the Persian Gulf to global markets. Any threat to these routes immediately becomes a major issue for energy security planners. Governments around the world therefore have strong incentives to prevent the situation from escalating into a wider confrontation. Diplomatic channels often become extremely active during these moments, even if the negotiations remain largely invisible to the public. Behind closed doors, officials attempt to lower tensions, clarify intentions, and avoid misunderstandings that could push the situation toward open conflict. For investors watching from financial capitals around the world, the coming days may prove especially important. Markets will be looking for signals, statements from government officials, military updates from defense agencies, and movements in energy prices that reveal how traders are interpreting the risk environment. Each of these signals help shape expectations about the future direction of global markets. But perhaps the most important question now facing analysts is whether this event represents an isolated incident or the beginning of a broader escalation cycle, because history shows that moments like this can sometimes mark the start of larger geopolitical shifts.
A single missile strike can remain a contained episode, or it can become the opening chapter in a rapidly intensifying confrontation. For now, governments, military planners, and investors around the world are watching closely as more information emerges. What actually happened near the reported strike zone? How will the United States respond? And will diplomatic efforts succeed in preventing the situation from escalating further? Those answers may determine not only the future of regional security, but also the stability of global financial markets in the weeks ahead. As new intelligence assessments, satellite imagery, and official statements continue to emerge, the world will gain a clearer picture of what this strike truly means. But at this moment, uncertainty still dominates the global conversation. And until that uncertainty begins to fade, both geopolitical tensions and financial markets are likely to remain on edge as this rapidly developing story continues to unfold.